So I'm all about the journey. I'm all about the life experiences, the defining moments, the relationships that you gain along the way that help really mold you into who you are and who you're meant to be. So I want to go back to like Joe Burrow as a kid. Man, what was it like for you, your childhood, your memories, your experiences, sports, competition, that kind of thing?
I mean, our family was always built around sports. I wouldn't say football was my favorite sport growing up. I liked baseball and basketball more. But, every weekend we were doing something, going to my dad's games, going to my Pee Wee games, whatever it was all about sports.
Yeah. So you had two older brothers, right?
Yeah.
All right, so were you getting your butt whooped a lot?
Well, so I was born when they were about to graduate high school.
Okay, all right, so they were quite a bit older.
I was fortunately not getting my butt beat as a newborn, but they were always kind of around, so it was good.
Yeah. So what position in baseball? Because I've got a theory on this.
Shortstop, center field.
Perfect. All right, that fits my theory.
Yeah.
Right. They did an article a couple years back where they documented like all the quarterbacks in the NFL, what positions they played in baseball. 75% were shortstop. What was the other position that was most prevalent?
Catcher. Yeah.
Stafford and Brady were both catchers.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. So, at what point did you feel like football was going to be your opportunity?
Really, probably not until after my sophomore year of high school. I was, a basketball guy, AAU guy.
Yeah.
I really wanted to play basketball in college, so I was doing all those camps until after my sophomore season of football. I had a really good year, and I realized I'm probably a little better at football than basketball. I could shoot and I could score, but I wasn't not super tall and all that.
Yeah.
So then I started going to football camps and started, accumulating a little offers here and there.
Yeah.
And I had a few in basketball, but not a ton.
Yeah.
And so then I realized that football was kind of my ticket.
Yeah. So you were 2015 to 2017 at Ohio State, right? And then from there, I find this amazing. So this 2-year stint at LSU where you go and win a national championship, and then 2 years here in Cincinnati, and you're on your way to a Super Bowl. Do you find any similarities in those two, scenarios?
It's felt pretty similar. We have a lot of the same players. Jamar is here, Tyler Shelvin is here, a lot of guys that I played with at Ohio State as well. So, the surroundings for me when I got here were very familiar. I knew a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then, our locker room is really, really close. And that was the same way at LSU. And I think, really that's what's put us over the edge. Every team has, really good players, and we have as good of a roster as anybody, but I would say our locker room cohesion is pretty rare.
What do you feel like has brought that together? You talk about the level of familiarity, maybe with you guys being teammates in other places, but what else has brought you guys together in a unique way?
We just have a lot of really great people in that locker room. Yeah, they're great players. Everybody sees what they do on the field, but I feel like I can sit down at lunch and have a conversation with anybody on the team, and it's not really like that all the time. And, it's just kind of rare.
Yeah. I feel like guys come to work and really enjoy being around each other.
Yeah, for sure.
I find your journey really interesting because you've had success, early, which is rare, and yet the last 6 years for you, there's been plenty of adversity, right?
Yeah.
What have been some defining moments for you over the last 5 to 6 years that have helped position you for where you are right now?
Well, my whole time at Ohio State was a challenge. There was Cardale Jones, Braxton Miller, and JT Barrett all were there when I got there, so I knew I wasn't going to play early. And then, battled injuries throughout my career there, and was never able to see the field. And it was really a struggle for me, because I worked the same way that I am now, but I wasn't seeing the product on the field. And I was getting better in practice, but it's like at some point I got to go show it on the field and prove to myself that I can do it. And I just wasn't seeing that, and so it was frustrating for me. And so I, decided to leave there and got my chance at LSU. And, it really couldn't have worked out better. Coach O was great for me. Everything that he told me when he was recruiting me ended up happening. And, I battled through a lot of injuries, and I would say those injuries are the most significant moments.
Yeah.
Broke my hand, hurt my shoulder, my knee last year. I've just, been resilient through those rehab processes and got me to where I'm at today.
So you feel like the overcoming the injuries in a lot of ways help you grow?
Yeah, for sure.
Was there a moment at LSU, or because that's where I obviously I was right there in your backyard, right? So I was witness to that. But from your junior year to senior year, like when do you feel like it really clicked for you, and maybe the things that started happening on the field were matching up with where you felt like you were psychologically with your own confidence?
I would say the last 2 games of my junior year at LSU, the beginning of the year, I hadn't played a football game for 3 years, so I was still trying to figure out how to play at this level. I'd done it in practice, but a big part of my game was always maneuvering in the pocket and extending plays, and I hadn't done that for 3 years, so I had to relearn how to do that.
Yeah.
And then we played Texas A&M at Texas A&M, threw for a lot of touchdowns, ran for 100 yards, and I was like, okay, I'm starting to get back to it. And then the Fiesta Bowl, I threw for 400 some yards, and going into that off season, kind of realized I was getting better throughout the year, had a really good finish, and I was going to have a full spring ball with all these guys that I knew were really good players, and just was able to improve.
Yeah. Have you always had this level of confidence about you?
Yeah, I would say so. I think just putting myself in a lot of competitive situations growing up, playing 3 sports, it's the same thing as getting reps in practice at a certain play. You get reps in competitive situations, and you start to realize certain things about yourself. You feel like you can step up in certain moments, and the moment's never too big for you. And I kind of put myself in a lot of those situations growing up.
Yeah, there's always that jump from college to pro, and certainly you even as highly touted as you were coming up, you have those moments where you probably feel like maybe you doubt, or you got to prove it. Was there a moment in the NFL where you felt like I can play at this level?
As soon as the first practice here, I played really well in camp from the beginning. I would say the jump from high school to college was probably a bigger jump than college to the NFL. I grew up in a small town playing small town football.
And you went from the SEC to here, which is basically like the junior NFL
and so
to here.
It was a little faster, and you got to prepare a little more, and understand what you're looking at, and be ready for unscouted looks that you don't really have to be ready for in college. But as far as feeling ready to play, I felt ready to play from day one.
So when you were drafted here as the first pick, what were the messages or the voices saying to you, maybe outside this building, about this organization, or about this challenge, versus maybe the way that you viewed it?
Yeah, I mean, everyone heard the media leading up to the draft. Bengals this, Bengals that. Does he want to play there? Yada yada yada. Of course, I wanted to play here. It's 2.5 hours from home, and I sat down with Zach at the combine, and as soon as I talked to Zach, I knew exactly what this was going to be. I knew that we had the coaching staff, and he had the vision that just the way he talked about his vision was the way it was going to be. It was going to be fact, and I bought into that.
How did you feel like this was going to be as much of a challenge as it was maybe when you transferred to LSU and trying to turn that program into becoming what you felt like it could be, or was there something different about? You guys did this so quickly, right? I mean, did you have any idea that this would happen so quickly?
No, probably not.
Yeah.
But I knew that anything could happen in the NFL. I didn't really think about it as, I got to come in here and turn this place around.
Yeah.
I came in and it was just like, I just need to be myself and play football the way I always have, and I think it's going to work out. And we have a lot of really hard-working players. I worked really hard. Our coaching staff worked really hard to turn this thing into what it is this year.
Yeah. So going back to last year, when it was just kind of the beginning of this, call it rebuild, going out and acquiring free agents from winning organizations, drafting guys like you, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, others from winning programs like Ohio State, Clemson, LSU, etc. Was there a moment last year that you felt like things were beginning to turn?
Really, the whole year I felt like we were right there. I mean, we were in every single game we played, except we played Baltimore twice and got our butts kicked. But other than that, we were in just about every game, and I felt like we had a chance to win every single game. So when I looked back on the season after the year, it was like we just as easily could have been 9-7 as 4-12 or whatever we were.
Yeah.
And so I knew that if we just all got better by this much, we would turn those losses that we had into wins.
Yeah. How did you feel like you were playing going into the game when you hurt your knee?
I was just starting to play kind of the way I wanted to. The beginning of the year was some ups and downs. I wasn't quite as consistent as I would have hoped I had been. And then the last 3 games before I got hurt, I was playing really well. I was seeing the field. I was making checks that I never really had to do before. In college, you look to the sideline and get the check.
Yeah.
The headset cuts out at 15 seconds, and then you're on your own.
Right.
You see something, the play's not going to be very good. You get to another play, and I was finally starting to do that, and that was exciting for me. And then, obviously the injury happened, but I was able to go in the off season with those reps back in the back of my mind, and I think that helped me.
Going to the injury, though, the minute you realized the severity of that, what went through your mind?
Get the surgery over with so I could start my rehab process to get back. There was no
didn't feel sorry for yourself for too long?
No. At this point it's a job, and I was very businesslike with how I approached it, and you can't miss a day of rehab, just like you can't just miss if you're working in an office, you can't just not show up. So I had to show up to rehab every day to make sure that I was going to be ready to play, because I knew if I got to the season and I wasn't ready to play, and I look back on all these days that I didn't quite get everything out of myself, I would have hated it. And so I really pushed myself as hard as I could.
Yeah. So I did ACL, MCL in high school, and honestly, it was probably the reason that I didn't get recruited by any Texas schools. So I had to go to Purdue University, which I didn't even know where it was at the time, right? But probably the greatest thing that ever happened to me, because I had a chance to go there and get a great education, playing the spread offense, and have that exposure. The shoulder injury that I have to leave San Diego and go to New Orleans at the time, I thought it was the worst thing that could happen to me. It ended up being the best. Was there a moment for you with the knee where you felt like, gosh, am I going to come back as strong as I was? Why is this happening to me? And now looking back on it here a little over a year later, you say, man, so much positive has come from that.
Yeah, I don't know if I thought about it like that in the NFL, because I knew I was the number 1 pick. I'd started playing really well, and I kind of knew that my hard work would get me back for the season, and I would start playing well again. So I wasn't quite worried about that. I would say there were definitely moments throughout my injuries at Ohio State that was like, am I ever going to be able to do this? Am I going to have to go to Wall Street and find a job? Am I going to have to interview for jobs in a couple of years? So I was kind of just at the end of changing my mindset of get to the NFL to go find a real job. And so those injuries were tough, but I think I had a great support system around me, just like I did with my knee, and it helped me through it.
Yeah. You talked about the rebuild, though, of throwing motion and really having to build that again from the ground up. Do you find that you are even better now, throwing the football, more efficient, more accurate, better mechanics? Where do you feel like you are now, having had to go through that?
Yeah, I'm a lot better than I was last year. I'm able to stay balanced in a lot of different situations and get velocity on the football in different ways than I was last year. Last year I had to take a big 3 and a big hitch into every throw that I needed to the, if I had to throw it deep out to the field, I needed all of that.
Yeah.
And this year it's like, if there's pressure around me, I can still make that throw if I can't really step into it. And I really think that the rehab process with my hips and my core and just standing and throwing and really feeling all the ins and outs of my throwing motion have helped me with that.
Yeah. I feel like there's as much of a physical barrier as there is a psychological barrier that you have to overcome when you come back from an injury like that. Was there a moment this season where something happened, a play where you felt like, all right, like I'm really back?
Well, in camp, I was really focused on the rush and the push in the pocket, and it was frustrating to me because I'd never felt that way before. I was always kind of able to ignore it and feel everything, and
but you're worried about people rolling.
Yeah, it just wasn't there right away. And then, it got a little better through camp, and then in the first game, I get rolled up on that knee on the first third down, and felt some crackling, and got up, made sure I was okay, and I was like, okay, now I'm good to go. Yeah. It's time to play football.
Sometimes you just need to get hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say your mobility is something that you don't get enough credit for.
I agree.
You're not the prototypical run around quarterback. But I found that some of your biggest plays have come off just your ability to slide, move, avoid, right? Just buy a little bit more time and get out, and whether it's take off and run, or how much of that are you conscious of? Are you consciously thinking about and working on?
I'm very conscious of that. I think, it kind of eliminates certain coverages that defenses try to play, like two-man. If they want to play two-man, I'm just going to take off and get a first down with my legs.
Are you immediately thinking that pre-snap? Like,
yeah.
I know two-man, worst case, I'm taking off and running.
Yeah, you can see it pre-snap of, what coverage, whether it's called double-double, where they're doubling two guys, or it's two-man. It's the same thing for me.
Yeah.
That I know what route might win against that coverage, and so I'm looking at that route. If it wins, great, I'll throw the ball. If it doesn't win, I'm finding an escape route and I'm running for the first down.
Yeah. So coming into this year, overcoming the injury, watching the team continue to build with free agency and draft picks, what were your own personal expectations or goals coming into this year, and then expectations for the team?
Well, I expected to be really, really good. I expected to make the playoffs and potentially win the division. I knew the kind of free agents that we brought in. I knew the guys we had coming back, and then we had a great draft, drafted Jamar. I knew what kind of player he was going to be. And so for me, it was just get the ball in my playmakers' hands, get it out fast and accurately so they can go make plays. And, I would say maybe we made it a little further than I would have thought back then, but, it doesn't surprise me now that we've got through the season where we ended up.
So how would it feel to bring a Super Bowl, the first Super Bowl, to the state of Ohio and the fans here in Cincinnati?
It would be pretty incredible. Being the quarterback of the Bengals and growing up in Ohio is something that I'm really proud of. I feel like I can relate to the fan base in a way that not a lot of quarterbacks across the league can, because not everyone has the same opportunity to play for their hometown team as I do. And I think that gives me an edge as far as relating to the fans and relating to the organization, understanding what these people go through, and to bring them a Super Bowl would mean the world to me.
Did you have dreams about that as a kid, or did you have moments of like backyard football where you had like the Boomer Esiason jersey on or something like that, and you're running around pretending to be one of them?
No, but definitely basketball dreams though, with the Cavs, wearing the LeBron jersey.
That's good. I like it. So this Rams defense, a couple Hall of Famers up front rushing the passer, trying to hit you on every play, Aaron Donald and Von Miller. How conscious are you of where those guys are on every play?
Yeah, you have to be aware of those guys. You got to have I think we're going to have a great plan for them. And our O-line has played, really well last game and able to, stay in front of those guys. And also for me, when there's plays to be made outside the pocket, don't be afraid to go make those plays. They're going to have really good rushers. They're going to get pressure, get the ball out quickly, and then take your opportunities when they're there.
Yeah. One thing I want to ask you about the offense and just your relationship with Zach Taylor, your opportunity to work with him on this offense. How much input do you have on a weekly basis into what you guys are doing, and how has that evolved through your time here with him?
Yeah, it's really been a perfect situation for me because Zach really takes my opinions into account. If I don't like a play, he's not going to call the play.
Right.
And he calls things that I feel really good about, and they come up with a great plan every week, so I don't, it's not often that I say, hey, I don't like this play, let's not call it. But, when that play does happen, it's been awesome. If I want to change the way a route is run in practice, I have no qualms about going and speaking my mind right there on the field, because, Zach understands that, I'm the one out there that's going to have to make it work on the field, and whatever helps me be comfortable is what we're going to do. Yeah. That's awesome.
What are the interactions like with you guys? Critical situation in a game, call a timeout, come to the sideline, talking about a play. Like what are those interactions like?
Well, I usually have the same play in mind, so he kind of knows what I'm going to say every single time.
Yeah.
And then he's going to say, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? So it's very to the point, business-like, succinct.
But it's a dialogue.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
Okay, I like it.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.